Hello students, I welcome you to the May month International Affairs prelims 2020. In the April month International Affair, we have seen India-Nepal specifically. We have seen INF Treaty. We have seen New START Treaty, how they are leading to the new arms race, isn't it? Today also we will see NPT, we will see CTBT, and we will see Open Skies Treaty. That is very important. And all will give you an idea that how this new arms race is still like it's unfolding in front of us. Okay, let us start. Starting with the NPT, non-proliferation of nuclear weapons. It's in 1968, so it's a pretty old treaty. So the idea from the name itself, non-proliferation of the nuclear weapons. So proliferation should not be there. So for example, till the time you have this weapons, this is fine. And this is how it divides the countries into the nuclear having nations and non-nuclear having nations, nuclear powers, right? So the idea is to prevent the spread of the nuclear weapon and weapon technology to promote the cooperation in the peaceful use of the nuclear energy. So those who have not signed, it is very important for you to identify which country has not signed, and India has obviously hasn't signed both of them. Okay. So let us see the situation of the few countries. So first of all, if you see countries such as United States, you have Russia, you have China, you have France, you have UK. These are 5 nuclear powers. Okay, they are called nuclear weapon states. So these 5, the P5 nations which are there. I've told you already that China conducted its test in 1964-65, right? 1964 they have conducted their test, and later on they acceded to this treaty. So these are the nuclear weapon states, right? Now some of the states are there. Only one state which withdrew from the treaty, it is North Korea. Okay, it withdrew. First it signed, then it withdrew. Then we have country like India, Pakistan, Israel, and South Sudan. Okay, South Sudan, which are non-signatory to the NPT. Other all countries are signatory to the NPT. Okay, so this is how you need to remember it, right? So for example, all the 5 nations P5 are signatory to it. Okay, now what are the concerns with NPT? Overall concerns with NPT. First of all, power with the P5 nations. So why only P5 nations have the nuclear weapon? Why not other nations, right? And also it is related to the India's instance also. India also says that you have divided the countries on the basis of nuclear haves and nuclear have-nots. For example, India is having a very precarious situation of nuclear. It has China on the one hand, which is a nuclear weapon state. It is a hostile neighbor. And on the other hand, we also have Pakistan. Then new arms race that we have discussed with the withdrawal of INF Treaty, with the expiry of the New START Treaty, with the US saying that Open Skies Treaty we will not follow. Later on, we'll see that. So you can see new arms races that is going on. Then new quest for nuclear proliferation is also there. For example, it is said that the Middle East is going nuclear because as JCPOA was, it's failed almost. Iran is going for the nuclear. UAE is also thinking of going nuclear. Saudi is going of thinking nuclear, right? They have seen it positively, how much it impacts a nation. For example, North Korea is a very good example. That North Korea survives because of its nuclear weapon. It considers nuclear weapons such as its own protective armor, isn't it? Then it does not forbid the possession of the nuclear weapon. It's only says non-proliferation. For example, I possess this weapon and then I accede to the treaty. Then I don't have to destroy those weapons. Then finally, the biggest issue is the non-compliance of it. Even if they are become signatory to it, they do not comply to this particular NPT. So these are the problems with this NPT. Then what about India's stand? So first of all, we'd say that's a discriminatory treaty because of the way they have grouped the countries. So India believes that's a biased legal instrument. Okay, so it is divided. We have, as we have discussed, nuclear haves and nuclear have-nots. And it does not, India also thinks that having nuclear weapon is very integral to India's internal security situation. So we are faced with 2 nuclear neighbors. right? Treaty also requires countries to give up any present or future plans to build nuclear weapons, right? So it does not cater to the India's security need, hence we have not signed it. And this much information is enough for us. Next is CTBT. So again, it was negotiated in 1996. It has not come into force. Why? Because the 44 countries which were there at the time it was negotiated, out of 44, there are 8 countries which have not ratified it. Okay? So a multilateral treaty banning all the nuclear explosion for military and civilian purpose in all the environments. All the environments, there will be no nuclear testing. Nuclear test ban. Okay? It was negotiated in the Conference of the Disarmament in the Genoa. Okay, very interesting states. We will see one by one. You can see I have highlighted United States as well. United States have signed this, but it has not ratified it. Okay. What is the difference between signed and ratified? It's very easy. Let us understand. So basically signed is, so for example, we go to the Paris Agreement, that is UNFCCC, climate agreement. We went to the Paris Agreement, we signed it. Okay, we will do this. Then we ratify it. Ratification is done in the national government, national parliament, in some countries. Now ratification process different in different countries. For example, in India and in the US, let us have an example. In India we have, just one second. Yes, in India the executive have the power to ratify. If you remember, our Paris Agreement was ratified on the day of 2nd of October. Okay, so the executive, whenever Modi ji wants, he will bring a cabinet, resolution and he will ratify the treaty. But in USA, it is very difficult. In USA, they have to pass it through Senate. Okay, and that is finally the ratification process goes through. So in some countries, the ratification is more tricky. They have to pass through the parliament. In some countries, it is very easy. They have to pass through the executive. So this is that. One question was asked in mains, not in mains, but in test series, is that should India also go for ratification in the same way the US does? For example, passing it through Rajya Sabha or to the whole parliament. Why? Because only the executive, how can only the executive, which representing only the union government, can accede to a treaty which can have a ramification for everyone in the country? Isn't it? There also needs to be the say of the federal governments. If it goes through, an executive is not the will of the people. Will of the people is represented in the parliament. So it is the parliament ultimately which needs to ratify it. But again, just that's for the information. In the polity, question can come. So there is very famous Annex 2 countries. So what is these Annex 2 countries in CTBT? So Annex 2 states are those 44 states that have formally participated in this 1996 session. Okay, all of whom must ratify the treaty for treaty to come into force. So around 8 countries out of these 44 countries have not ratified it. Okay, so when the country will come into force after 180 days after, and all the 44 countries will ratify it. Okay, that is it. The question also, for example, let us see few countries. So let us focus only on the Annex 2 countries, not Annex countries. So let us see. Annex 2 countries and non-signatory. Let us focus on this. So we have India, we have Pakistan, we have North Korea. We also have, I think, Israel. Then Annex 2 only signed, it's USA, it's Egypt, it is Iran, it is China also. Okay, so we have few countries which have signed, not ratified, and some countries which have not signed at all. Okay, and this is how we need to focus. And then other, obviously, out of 44 minus 8, there are 36 nations which are Annex 2 countries, those have signed and ratified. So those are the other countries, Canada, Russia, and these countries. Okay, so what are the features of this CTBT? When the treaty enters into force, it provides a legally binding norms against the nuclear testing. It is a zero yield treaty. It's a zero yield treaty. What does this mean? Okay, so it prohibits all the nuclear explosion that produces a self-sustaining supercritical chain reaction of any kind, whether for weapon or peaceful purposes. So it does not differentiate a lot, because sometimes it is said that we have tested nuclear weapons. No, Some countries say no, we are testing only for the peaceful purposes. They say no. They say if the nuclear explosion are self-sustaining, first condition, and they are supercritical chain reactions, then they will be classified as the test which will be prohibited under this CTBT. Okay. And next problem, that's a big problem, that is subcritical and the lab testing is not banned under the CTBT. And this is being one of the argument given against the CTBT also. They say that now the testing part under the CTBT, the testing part is not conducted in this ground. Huge nuclear explosions are not carried out. Only the lab testing, only the simulation testing is being done. Okay. Only the simulations in the computer are being done just to check that whether nuclear weapons will be working or not. They don't require an elaborate testing mechanisms, right? So in that sense, CTBT also is not tuned with the present condition, and this is being the arguments against the CTBT. Now CTBT treaty establishes one CTBTO, that is CTBT organization, which is located in Vienna to ensure the implementation of the provision. And that is why sometimes this organization, when it means, it say that countries like India needs to sign this treaty, and then it becomes in news, and then it's always remains in news, and that is why we need to read it, right? Okay, then so there is one country, specific country. The question, I don't think question is important, but we need to know that South Africa is the one country which has voluntarily relinquished the nuclear arms under this complete control. And it happened when it finally got out of its apartheid regime. Okay? Okay. So what about India's case? As we have discussed, so India does not support CTBT, and CTBT does not address complete disarmament. It only talk about the testing thing. Then obviously Pakistan has not signed this treaty. China has not ratified it. Remember, China has signed it, but China has not ratified it. Okay. US has signed it, but US has not ratified it. What about India's stand? So first of all, the same argument that CTBT divides the country world permanently into nuclear haves and nuclear have-nots. Why? Those who have done the testing, those who have weapons, that are fine, but those who have not tested, they will not be able to test again. So this is not done. Then there is no time frame is mentioned in the treaty. Then the same argument that was there, that it does not address India's security concerns, it will hinder India's strategic nuclear development program, right? So these are the problems with India on the CTBT. They also have a verification regime as well, right? To monitor, okay, where the nuclear explosions are taking place, where the nuclear tests are taking place. So the components are the international monitoring system, international data centers, and on-site inspections as well, but not very important. Okay. One related organization can be important, IAEA. So I think we have already discussed it. If not, then I'll cover it in the next month international institutions, because IAEA becomes very important organization. Next, very important for this year, that is Open Skies Treaty. Okay. So it was signed in 1992 and came in effect in 2002. Very interesting treaty, in fact. So the agreement allows that all the signatory countries which have signed to this particular treaty to monitor arm development against conducting the surveillance flight. For example, let us see from the map itself. Let us see from this map. For example, some nuclear arm testing is going on in here. So as these countries have signed this Open Skies Treaty, the USA can check the through surveillance by flights or something, right? So they can gather information on each other's military forces or activity through aerial surveillance. So they can go and check basically all whether they are doing something nuclear wise wrong or not, right? So this is important. So US to pull out of Open Skies Treaty, Trump's latest treaty withdrawal. So we have seen that Trump's it is called withdrawal doctrine of Trump's, withdrawal from every place. Okay, so India is obviously not the member of this treaty. We have seen the map also. So recently USA has announced that it will exit the Open Skies Treaty due to the continuous violation treaty by the Russia. The same argument that are being given in the terms of the why we should not go for INF, why we should not go for the extension of the New START treaty as well. Okay, so there have been 1400 open skies flight. Okay, US has conducted 500 over flights primarily on Russia. So this becomes important. India is not part of it. Open Skies Treaty. What is the purpose of this treaty? These are very important. Okay, So the idea behind it, what was the idea? Is to increase the military transparency, predictability, build trust, confidence, enhance mutual understanding, so that one country should not go into arms race with the other. And these are the idea behind this Open Sky Treaty. Next is United Nations Relief and Work Agency. So UNRWA. So established in 1949. So the main work is does for the Palestinian refugees. So this provides shelter, basic food supplies, medical aid for the Palestinian refugees. Israel-Palestine becomes a very important issue this time also. Map-wise also we can say very important. I'll cover it very soon. I'll cover it in one of the sessions, whether in current affairs or in Explain It session. I'll cover it Israel-Palestine. Why? Because recently UAE has also signed a diplomatic agreement with the diplomatic restart of the relations with the Israel. Okay. So this becomes very, very important. So 5 fields of operations of this you can see wherever the Palestinian refugees will be there. So Jordan, Lebanon, Syria, Gaza Strip, Western Bank, including the east of Jerusalem, headquartered in Jordan. So why it was in the news? Because India has provided $2 million aid or to the UN agency working for the Palestinian refugees. This comes in the backdrop of India's increasing policy of the de-hyphenation of Israel-Palestine issue. You also need to focus here is because the question on Israel-Palestine is I don't think that's very important for the prelims and also for the GS mains, but for PSIR students. Why? Because you see Israel-Palestine, we have done de-hyphenation. Okay, one country's relation will not impact the others. But as we are increasing our understanding with Israel, and obviously our commercial interest lies with Israel, commercial, strategic, security interest, diplomatic interest, but we are not forgetting the Palestine as well, right? We have provided relief, assistance, moral support to the Palestine continuously. Next is International Day for Peacekeeping, May 29. So these are called blue berets or blue helmets. So this question itself can come. Blue helmets are famous. Who are these blue helmets? So these are the international UN peacekeepers. Okay. So they bring together the General Assembly, Security Council, Secretariat and host country to combine efforts to maintain international peace and security. Right. They include soldiers, police officers, civilian personnel. Till recent time, India was the largest contributor to the UN peacekeeping, not now. Okay. So according to UN Charter, every member is obliged to pay their respective share for the peacekeeping. India also contribute a lot of medical supplies, a lot of officers, a lot of soldiers in UN peacekeeping. Okay. Some of the operations of India are very famous. For example, India's operation in Congo is very famous. Okay. So this is that. This year theme was Women in Peacekeeping, a key to peace. Because now the peacekeeping operation, the nature of their work has changed. Earlier the work was so that there is no conflict is there or so as to make sure that civil wars do not happen in the country. Now the work has changed qualitatively. Now they are also working for the reconstruction of the country, such as South Sudan, such as Afghanistan, many of the countries, right? Currently, it's hope that the countries such as Lebanon, which has faced a lot of, like recently the government also collapsed in Lebanon. It is said that the UN peacekeepers will go into the Lebanon. Now, coming back to some country-specific news, we are done with our international institutions that we have discussed few of them. Starting with a new security law in Hong Kong. So if the question comes that security law, something like that, it was famous or it was in the news with respect to which place or which country. So it is with respect to Hong Kong, which is a part of China. Now, Hong Kong, China story we have already discussed. Recently, this security law has been there in the Hong Kong. So this law seeks to criminalize all the activities which are related to the secession, subversion, terrorism and foreign interference in Hong Kong. Now you can see very broadly worded legislation, and this gives a lot of power to the China over the Hong Kong. It also says that China could have its own enforcement agencies in the Hong Kong alongside cities owned to safeguard the national security. It raised concern that it could lead to the prosecution of the Hong Kongers who are dissenting against the China. Okay, those, for example, you have seen a lot of protest. Water revolution was there, right? So a lot of protests which are there in Hong Kong. So those protesters can be jailed by China now. So you can see many of the people after this, the security law has come into being, many people are into jail. Many news are coming. For example, Mr. Jimmy Lai, He was a media person who was supposed to be, he was a dissenting voice in Hong Kong against China. So he was taken under custody. Mass arrests are going through. Many of the social media activists also facing threat. That is why United Kingdom, Australia, Taiwan, all these countries have offered that to the Hong Kong people, that okay, come to us. If you want refugee, if you refuge, come to us. We will help you even in the time of the coronavirus. Okay, so UK has said that we will provide citizenship, we will provide visa support to all these people who are facing threats to their life in the Hong Kong. So it is a part of a one country, two system formula. I hope you know this. One country, two system formula with respect to the Hong Kong. So 1997, finally, after 199 years of the lease, United Kingdom has returned Hong Kong to China. But it is said that by 2047, the China will put Hong Kong under this one country, two system. For example, the China will provide autonomy to the Hong Kong. Okay, China will do the least interference in the economy, in the democratic practice, in the free nature of the Hong Kong society. But after 2047, it will be integrated into the mainland China. This is Hong Kong, is small, right? Okay. So the Hong Kong and the Britain story we have discussed in September month in detail. I've told you with chart, okay, this happened, then finally it was negotiated with Deng Xiaoping and by UK government. Then 1997, this happened. By 2014, the protest starts happening. So it was a water revolution. The context was the extradition law, that those who are in facing problems in Hong Kong can be extradited to China. Now you know the rule of law, condition of the rule of law in China, and the people of Hong Kong who love rule of law. Why? Because they have lived in democracy for too long, isn't it? So they are in tune with the democratic culture, rule of law, freedom of speech and expression. They cannot be subverted by China. They will protest. So please do see this session, September 19 International Affairs. There I have discussed with the Hong Kong, and you can connect it with the recent security law. Now everything which will be happening in Hong Kong will just be a context to the long standing problem of the Hong Kong. It is said that by 2047, it has to be integrated with China. But what they are saying, Chinese are doing, they are, what we say, fast forwarding this 2047. They don't want to wait for this 2047 to make it happen. They will say, no, we will integrate Hong Kong now, just now. Okay. It is a larger part of Chinese territorial revisionism, you can say, a part of the Chinese expansionism. I have discussed that in detail when I was discussing the border disputes. I have discussed one question in the mains master program of the Amrita IAS as well. So that question will be uploaded on your, whenever you will be preparing for mains, that question will be uploaded. Test 34, I believe it was that. Test 33, sorry. Test 33, question 2. International relation. So that there I have discussed how China is, how India's policy towards China has changed, or should be changed, or what was the Indian policy towards China for last 20 to 30 years, and how it is bound to change. Why currently we are experiencing an inflection point. Okay, a trajectory will be changed. India-China relationship. Then we have a new southbound policy. So it is a southbound policy by the Taiwan. Please remember, if the question comes, new southbound policy in the news, it is a policy by the Taiwan. Okay. So to integrate with the countries such as India, ASEAN countries, Australia, you can see the countries, Southeast Asia, New Zealand. Okay. Moving away from China. Okay. So it is now very integrative part of India-Taiwan. Now also India also needs Taiwan. Taiwan also needs India. India needs Taiwan for its strategic purpose, for economic interest, because India's commercial interest in the South China Sea. Taiwan also needs India. Why? Because if it increases its strategic relationship with India, it will give more impetus to its identity, isn't it? So Taiwan is looking for redefining its role in the region. Taiwan is looking for the countries to support itself, especially the countries which are facing the Chinese expansionism. It's time for India to invest its time in the Taiwan. Many articles are coming on this. Then a new currency being floated by Iran, that is known as the Toman. Okay. So what is this Toman? So for example, a lot of inflation is there in the Iran. So a lot of inflation will be there, then the value of the real, that is their original currency, will be less, obviously. They have to pay a lot of notes, they have to float a lot of notes to pay for this. Then they have what they have said, okay, 10,000 real is equal to 1 toman. It is similar to introducing a big size note also. For example, if India introduces a 1 lakh rupee note, something like that only, okay, nothing too much, but this is that. So Iran's to cut 4 zeros from currency to fight inflation. That's the only thing. So they are fighting hyperinflation. You have seen the Nazi time, right? Sorry, in the Great Depression time. In Germany, you must have seen when the people used to throw the money into the fire, because it was easier, it was cheap to throw the money into the fire than to buy the wood and to fire. Okay, they used to use money for making tea or something, right? Interesting. Then Baltic countries started the travel bubble. Baltic countries, I hope you know, Estonia, Latvia and Lithuania. Let us see the country also. Tallinn, sometimes Tallinn is famous for their declarations. Then Riga of Latvia and Lithuania is Vilnius. Not very important. So what there's a travel bubble. You must have heard of these terms, social bubble. For example, recently England, West Indies series happened. England, this series happened. Indian Pakistan series happened. So social bubble is basically what is? Let us see social bubble. So social bubble was, so basically you come in contact with the people, only those people, though themselves are in the social bubble. Okay, so you are in a kind of a bubble only. For example, this is a big bubble. So you are one person, that is other person. You are not contacting with anyone outside. So you are all are COVID negative and you're contacting with each other only. You are not going out of this social bubble. Okay, and similar to this is travel bubble. So for example, if someone travels from here to there, then they don't have to go for this quarantine or anything. But if someone comes from outside, they have to undergo the quarantine. This is that. Social bubble, very interesting concept. For example, if you are interested in cricket, you must know the story of Jofra Archer, who was punished by the English board because he broke this social bubble thing and he went to his home. Okay, this is that. Next, again not very important, but this militia name can come. Inter-Hamwe militia. I'm sorry for the noise. Right. Intra-Hamwe militia. So what about the militia? I hope you know about the Rwandan genocide. Very famous genocide. You can use this genocide as a very good example how the countries see this big conflict, then the country change. Okay, so Rwandan genocide is a very, very watershed moment with respect to the this particular country. So what was the Rwandan genocide? So Hutu versus Tutsi, basically the problem was, right? So Hutu killed a majority community, killed a lot of Tutsi. Hutu killed a lot of moderate Hutus as well. Those who were saying about tolerance, who were defending the Tutsis. So Hutu killed not only Tutsis, but also their own self, those who were moderate. Okay. So one of the militia which was active in that period was this one, Inter-Hamwe militia. Later on, it was declared as a terrorist group in the Rwanda when the reform happened, when people realized the futility of these identity war. So it's a far right Hutu militia organization. And when it is taken out of the Rwanda, then it spread in Uganda and the Democratic Republic of Congo. Okay. So the person who was basically who funded this militia, who funded this genocide was held. So the person was Kabuga. Okay, Felician Kabuga, and he was held finally. He was the key fugitive for the required for 1994 Rwandan genocide. This genocide is also very famous because UN peacekeeping force that we have discussed, the United Nations Security Council delayed in its intervention in this Rwandan genocide. And also it's been criticized a lot. They could have saved a lot of people. For example, around 8 lakh people were died. They were slaughtered in 100 days by ethnic Hutu extremists. If you have not read about Rwandan genocide, please do read at least one paragraph from the Wikipedia page, or you can see one video if you understand Hindi from Dhruv Rathi channel. So he has discussed, I think, Rwandan genocide somewhere. So please do see. It can be a very, very good example for your essay. Definitely a very good example for your essay, where you can mention about these examples, that why a country needs to be integrated, why there has to be a lot of respect for minorities, why minorities needs to be represented, What is the importance of tolerance? Right? These are the examples, Rwandan genocide examples, which are very, very effective. Okay, right. So I hope with this we finish our session. Let us quickly revise what we have done. So we started the discussion on NPT. We have seen some of the states of NPT. We have seen that which are the non-signatories, effectively India, Israel, Pakistan, and South Sudan, and the North Korea, which has withdrawn. Then we have seen the concerns with NPT and what is the stand of India with NPT. Remember the date 1968. So remember 1960s. Then we have CTBT. It was 1996, and the same thing with the CTBT as well. But please see that which are the countries which are there. For example, United States and China have signed the treaty but has not ratified it. On the other hand, India, Pakistan, this other country, North Korea, they have non-signatory itself. So what is the Indian stand on CTBT? Then very important, as I discussed, Open Skies Treaty is very important for this year. Then we have discussed India's aid to $2 million to the Palestinian, to this United Nations organization, which is working for the Palestinian refugee, United Nations Relief and Work Agency. Then International Day for Peacekeeping, Blue Berets. Then country specific news, we have discussed new security law in Hong Kong, one country, two system. Please do revise. Please remember or just have a look of the September international affairs. There I have discussed about this Hong Kong issue. Then Toman, a currency introduced by Iran. And finally, we have seen the travel bubble. I've also explained you about the social bubble as well. Okay. And then finally, we ended our session with the militia, that is inter-Humvee militia in the earlier in Rwanda, now in the Congo and the Uganda. Okay. So with this, we finish our session. See you in the next class. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.